I never thought a patch of dead grass could put me in handcuffs, but that's exactly what happened. 3 weeks after moving into my dream home, I was shoved into the back of a squad car like a criminal, and across the street stood a woman in a neon tracksuit smirking like she'd just won a war. My crime: a stubborn brown patch in my front yard. I had worked my whole life to buy that house late nights, 2 jobs, ramen dinners just to save every dollar. Oak Ridge looked like the kind of quiet suburb where people waved at you when you drove by. Instead, my welcome to the neighborhood was a blonde woman dressed like a highlighter who stormed across the street at 8 in the morning and spat, "Your kind doesn't belong here. Is this how you lived where you came from?" In filth, I was holding my coffee still half asleep, and there she was screaming about my lawn. I glanced down. Okay, fine, it wasn't perfect. A sprinkler was busted, leaving one dry, ugly patch of yellow grass. It was Saturday, and fixing it was literally on my to-do list. But the way she sneered at me like she'd been waiting for this moment made it clear it wasn't about the grass. "We have standards in this community," she snapped. "We have an HOA. You people might not be used to standards, but you'll learn. Or you'll leave." I tried to keep calm. I told her my name said I'd fix it, that there was no need for hostility. She gave me this nasty little smirk and strutted back to her picture-perfect lawn. That was my introduction to Karen Miller, head of the HOA's Architectural Committee, self-appointed guardian of the neighborhood's character. Later that day, I was out with a shovel, sweating under the sun, digging around to repair the line. That's when round 2 started. A guy in a polo shirt and CrossFit muscles walked up her son-in-law Todd. He looked at my half-dug yard like I'd built a junkyard out there. "HOA already sent a notice," he said, smirking. "You were supposed to fix this yesterday." I told him I never got one, but he shook his head all condescension. "We have record of it." Karen joined in, screeching that even digging required a landscaping plan. I snapped, "This is my property. I'm fixing a pipe. Leave me alone." Her face turned red. Then she whipped out her phone. "He's threatening me. He has a shovel. I'm calling the police." And she did. Minutes later, a patrol car pulled up and out stepped a young blonde officer. He didn't even look at me, went straight to Karen, who was dabbing fake tears while Todd patted her shoulder. Then the cop walked over, hand resting on his holster. "I'm getting a report. You threatened her with a shovel." I stared in disbelief. What, I was fixing my sprinkler. That's all. He didn't care. Cold eyes, no empathy. "Turn around, hands behind your back." The click of the cuffs on my wrists, that sound, will stay with me forever. I was arrested on my own lawn over brown grass. And when I looked up, there was Karen triumphant. They held me 6 hours in a cell that stank of bleach. I kept replaying everything, asking myself, should I have just smiled and apologized? Should I have let her scream at me? But deep down, I knew there was no winning with her. She wanted me gone. When they finally let me call someone, I dialed my sister. She's a paralegal, tough, no nonsense. She said, "Don't sign anything. Don't talk. I'll send a lawyer." And she did. Sarah Miller walked in, a sharp young attorney with fire in her eyes. She listened to my whole story, scribbling notes. When I was done, she said flatly, "This isn't about grass. They're trying to force you out, and we're not going to let them." For the first time that day, I didn't feel completely alone, but the nightmare only escalated. 2 days later, I got a fine for leaving trash cans out. Then, animal control showed up because of a vicious barking dog I didn't own. Every day, it was something new. $50 here, $100 there. I started wondering if maybe I should just sell, walk away, cut my losses. One night, sitting in my dark living room, I whispered to myself, maybe I don't belong here. Maybe I made a mistake. That's when my neighbor George, an older man with roses in his yard, spoke up. He leaned over the fence one evening and said, "I saw what they did. It was nonsense. She's been running this place like her own kingdom for 20 years. Don't let her break you." His words lit a spark. Maybe I wasn't crazy. Maybe the problem really was her. Sarah and I installed security cameras. Within days, they caught something unbelievable. A figure in a hoodie creeping into my yard at night, sprinkling something from a bag onto the grass. Poison. Sabotage. The next morning, the patch spread like wildfire grass, curling and yellowing. And then, like clockwork, a new violation notice showed up with a $500 fine. Armed with the footage, Sarah and I went to an HOA board meeting. It was a circus. Karen stood up in her navy suit, dripping fake emotion about protecting the neighborhood's standards. Todd sat in the front row, arms crossed, glaring at me. When the board president asked if I had a defense, Sarah stood and calmly played the video. The board members paled. For a moment, I thought we had them. But then Karen shrieked, "He faked it! He's dangerous! I want him gone!" And just like that, the board caved. They sided with her. They raised my fines to $500 a day. Walking out of that clubhouse, I felt truly defeated. It wasn't just her, it was the whole system. The HOA wasn't protecting the neighborhood. It was her personal weapon. And I was the target. That night, Sarah paced my living room. "We're not going to win by playing their game," she said. "We flipped the whole board." She hired Frank, a private investigator, to dig. What he found blew everything open. Todd, the CrossFit son-in-law, was a small-time developer who had tried to buy my house cheap before I moved in. And the cop who arrested me, Blake, Karen's other son-in-law. It was a family operation. Karen created the problem, Todd had the financial motive, and Blake provided the muscle. Then, the bombshell, Blake's body cam. He'd forgotten to turn it off. After my arrest, it caught them laughing, talking openly about making me beg to sell. They'd confessed on camera. Sarah took it straight to the district attorney. The DA's office opened a criminal investigation for racketeering and harassment. Suddenly, the power shifted. I wasn't just a man under siege anymore. I was a witness in a conspiracy case. Weeks later, indictments dropped. The news exploded. Suburban family police officer indicted in real estate fraud and harassment scheme. Karen's mugshot, stripped of her smirk, was plastered on every screen. Todd scowled and his Blake looked stunned. My quiet street turned into a media circus. Neighbors who once glared at me now whispered apologies. The empire Karen had built on fear was crumbling. The trial was brutal. I sat on the stand and told the jury everything from the first Saturday morning insult to the cold metal cuffs on my wrists to the nights I stayed up watching my security cameras, heart pounding. I told them how close I'd come to giving up, how powerless I had felt. But I didn't sugarcoat the anger either. I wanted them to know the toll it took. The prosecution played Blake's body cam. You could hear Karen's voice clear as day. "He'll be begging to sell by the time we're done." The jury gasped. Sarah leaned toward me and whispered, "That's the nail in their coffin." George testified too. Calm, credible. He talked about her history of bullying residents, about how my sprinkler system mysteriously broke right after I moved in. Piece by piece, the case tightened like a vice. When Blake took the stand, the prosecutor asked about that very recording. "What plan was your mother-in-law referring to?" Blake stammered, sweating. I don't recall." The jury saw right through it. It took them less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Blake lost his badge and got 2 years in prison. Todd, 3 years for property damage and fraud. And Karen, the architect of it all, got probation-heavy fines and a lifetime ban from any HOA board. Standing there in court, hearing the verdict, I didn't cheer. I didn't smile. I just felt a deep, bone-tired relief. She'd wanted me out of my home. Instead, she lost everything. And that's where the story ends, on the day her power finally collapsed, and I stood still in my house, free of her grip. Because the real lesson is simple: bullies only win if you let them.